Go. Nice. And João's comments. Hello, João. So, guys,
Hello.
we already are in the YouTube, and we will start the talk. I don't know if João like to introduce herself, or Leandro, maybe. Heitor, I know you know each other.
Okay, of course. My name is João Pedro Sena. I'm 22 years old. I live in Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais, and I'm currently working as a data engineer on a consultant company. And I'm on TALKNTALK to improve my confidence and try to work abroad the country. That's it.
It's the same goal for everyone here.
For technologies, I think yes.
Nice, guys. So this not is the first time for anyone here, so not necessary for me talk about how TALKNTALK works, but for you who are watching us on YouTube, please enter in the www.talktalk.com.br to know about the plans and the ways to use the platform. Here, the topic for the day is SQL or cycle language. And we recently watched the video, João, talking about the language and what is the goal to use that, and the questions I will send here in the chat. Now, before we start, we are in small groups, so not as necessary slides today. And I don't know, someone think is good read the questions, or I can do that. Do you like to start with some questions, John?
Just read the question number 2 and the sequence.
Read and answer for yourself.
Okay. Are you familiar with some programming language? Which are they? Yes. I think since 2019, I've been studying programming language for different purposes, but I'm familiar with R, that I use for just a short period of time for statistics and school projects, and Python for my current work right now, to develop some pipelines, CI/CD, and etc. And in third place, the purpose of this class, SQL, that I use to explore a database. So it's so useful for me, and for me is the easiest language of these three. One is so intuitive, I think.
Yeah, I will choose Leandro to continue that, but it's nice if when you ending, you can choose the other, no?
For me, yes, I am very familiar with Java. I'm working with Java almost 12 years, okay. But now I'm trying to improve my my skills about for example, Go, and trying to learn Go, Node.js. Okay, I have a little bit knowledge about TypeScript, in special when I am using Angular. Okay, I had a little experience with C sharp as well. But in general, Java is my strong background. Okay. And you, Heitor?
In my case, I start to learn Python when I try to enter in the market. I learn a little bit, but I have been working with Ruby since 2020. And nowadays I start to learn JavaScript because the jobs abroad require more JavaScript. I think it's the most common language for another countries. And I know a little bit of SQL, but just to make some appointments in the bank or consult something. It's in my job is not so necessary and do a lot of SQL, just the basic.
Yeah, I start recently in programming job, and my first language her CSS. Next, I introduced JavaScript and deep it in React.js and Node.js too, TypeScript, Python. Yeah, that's once. But now SQL too. But it is like HTML. I don't know. It's difficult to me assume this is a language. It's something that I use to in the middle of the code. But okay, and nowadays I use the Nest to Node with Nest.js, so it's difficult use SQL. Simple SQL. I normally use Nest to make the job for me. But it's that once. So I will read the next one. And about SQL, are you familiar with that programming language? If not, have you already heard this language name before? I think we already answered that, yeah, during the first one. Do you think that SQL is difficult to start to learn? Why do you think that way? For me, in my experience, this is not is a difficult language to learn, but it's difficult to think and use in a better way. And it's difficult to make good relationship with tables. Not as easier. The N for N situation is it's difficult to organize the ideas and put this in the code, So not is the most easier for me, but not as difficult too. And for you, Heitor, please.
I think the beginning of SQL it's very easy to learn and understand, but after while time you start to learn about joins and inner joins, it's become more difficult. And when you start to develop a new database and you have to think in primary keys, foreign keys, I think start to be more complicated. I think twice to learn that how to develop a database and learn about that. It was very difficult for me understand that, and why to start with sheets without foreign quiz, and I don't know, it's a little complicated for me to develop something like that. And for
Yeah.
you, João?
If you use just for consult something, is easier.
Yeah,
But if you need to build something, it's complex. Yeah.
that's right. That's my problem.
Sorry, I interrupted someone.
Yes, I really feel it. at the same time, is the syntax is easy to understand. Build something in SQL is not so simple, and like doing more complex things is so difficult. I think you need to like try many times and search on Stack Overflow if you have some scripts similar to what you want to do. So it's not that simple. I really agree with you guys.
And in your opinion, Leandro?
Well, I agree with you guys. For beginner, is very quite to understand SQL because it is a language that we can write in English in the most part of the time. Okay, it's very normal. I would like to get a specific data. So I can type select from some table. Okay, but yes, when you need to make complex, okay, queries, it's a little bit hard. For example, when you need to join a lot of tables or a lot of data, it's a little bit complex. But I think that when you try to understand that these things that we learn in the I don't know today, but my season was quinta série, quarta série, for example, about the sets groups. Okay, is I don't know this in Portuguese, in English, sorry, but for example, está contido, não está contido, it's can help a lot to understand how can you make these complex queries. Okay, but in general, I think SQL in the most general topics is very well, not very well, a very easy language to understand and to learn. Okay, to make general things. Okay. I think that in a short, I think part of the time you need to make complex queries or to migrate some data, for example, from Oracle to SQL Server. In this case, you have to understand the type of data in SQL Server and in Oracle, but it's a advanced topic. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It in general is okay to learn. Not is a big deal, but when more deep you go, more difficult is your careers can be. Okay? Heitor, do you like to make the question 5 for us?
Sure. In your opinion, SQL is a good first language to learn? Why yes or not? In my opinion, SQL must be the mandatory language before you learn every program language. I think everything you do, for example, develop some apps or web app or a program, is relation with databases. You just manipulate databases. So I think you have to learn how to manipulate these databases And how is possible do with that before you learn another language? I know everyone wants to learn a first language, Java, JavaScript, or whatever. And after a while, you have to like come back to learn SQL in database. So I think if I have a course, if I develop a course, of course, database is the first subject to learn. Nowadays, I know how difficult it is learn a language and must come back to learn database. And for you, Leandro?
Uh, the
It's the number 5.
yeah,
English
sorry,
part.
I have make confusion here. Uh, yes, yes. I agree with Heitor. In special when you are working with backend, like as a backend developer, okay, it's a mandatory, right? You have to understand SQL. Uh, you have to understand the basic of the SQL. Okay, of course, when you are moving in levels, in different levels, your experience in SQL will grow, but it's mandatory. Okay, and I had some experience, okay, in other companies that I could to work. The parent insurance, okay, these colleagues needed to understand SQL as well because they needed to check the data in database if the data is storing a right way, okay. So yes, yeah, first language, no first language, okay, but in uh, the same side, okay. For example, Java and SQL, or Python and SQL. You have to understand. Okay, about the front end developers, I don't know really, but backend or full stack developer, it's mandatory. And you, João? What about you?
I agree with you both. I'll try to do a different approach for this question. I think if we talk about purpose of learn programming, I think just if you are a database administrator, SQL will be your first language. Will be a good first language to learn. But if you talk about purpose of learning programming, I think you try to learn different programming language to get a different approach first. Like if you like software engineer, you try to learn something more related with your daily routine and try to learn SQL when you need to complement it, your programming. So I think for some careers, SQL is more complementary than the first one language to learn. So I think that's it.
Yeah, I think I will the same line of you guys. When you think the person who works as an data analyst This person just will use SQL and some simple results to get, and this is okay for this person. So it's good to be the first language to learn. You don't need learn another language to get this job. But when you talk about software engineer, web developer, and more general, like a full stack, maybe not is the first language to get, in my case, I get the web full stack certificate, and when I just learning SQL when I introduce the backend model. When I start with the front end, and when you start, maybe learn some language who you can see the result is more comfortable to learn, And for me, for example, when I translate from the front end model to the back end, I feel that, oh my God, I can't see anything. I need to make all my comments, and just in the end, I will make the comment to go, forget me results, and it's like an insecurity floor to stay, So maybe not. I doesn't recommend you as a first language if you have interest to get the overview, like be a full stack, maybe. But if you are interested to start like analyzing or focusing in backend, is truly necessary and can be the first one. And the sixth question, the number 6, some programmers says, if you know Excel, you already know SQL. Do you agree with that? I will start with Leandro.
No, I think my opinion. Well, if this question was access, well, maybe, but Excel, I disagree. Okay, because it's completely different. Yeah, okay, you can see the data in tables, but when you need to filter something or search something, you just need to click in some thing in Excel, and voila, your data is filtered. But in SQL is completely different. You need to write the things that you would like to have. Okay, so today we have some kind of the applications that can transform the way that you can see the data very well, okay? But in general, you need to write your queries to see your data, okay? So I don't agree with these questions here. And you, João?
I think this doesn't make any sense. But there is a point. Maybe this phrase is talking about Power Query. Power Query is a tool on Excel that do some merges, some joins, some of these things, but it's completely different. It's like the idea is similar to like managing tables, but one is front end. You don't like do some code. It's low code, On the max level is low code, and SQL is hard code, like it's just code. And like there is similar purposes for query and SQL, but it's completely different syntax. One use M language and other use is SQL. So that's it.
Yeah, I think you explained very well. It's something like that. In this conversation, the guy was talking about this, using carry Excel, and but it's completely different. Not is the same. It's very easier the Excel, but maybe if the guy just get the results of the carry, for them it's just data. So okay. But for you, Heitor, what do you think about? You are muted. It's just for me?
I can hear.
Oh, I think you have some problem with your microphone. Maybe the phone go out.
Now you hear me?
Yeah, now
Oh, maybe who say that phrase use Excel as database. So yes, it's pretty hard to SQL. But no, it's not the same. I think we have the same purposes to consulting data or filter something, but it's pretty different the way they do that. Excel have another purpose, and SQL in databases is more. I don't know how to say that in English. More structured, more have way to keep our data safe. Excel is just to do a simple routines of a office, in my opinion.
Oh my God, think. Use the Excel as a database. This is hurt my mind. Okay. The number 7 question is, have you already tried to use this language and what for? Yes, I already tried to use. I use it frequently. Every day I do some carries to I work as a full stack, but more the time I work as a backend, and I use this backend, this data build to complement the front end is low code, so we just put some carries in there and access the data. And like I said before, I use the Nest to make my life more simple, so I don't use big codes in SQL, but I use. Sometimes I need to use, but not is not as difficult in my use, and is routiner, so stay in my mind the code, is it's okay for me. And you, Heitor?
Yeah, I already use that. I usually use to make some consults in the database. I already use to make some tests, running scripts and make some requests at the same time. It's very common. It's not very common. It's happens sometimes. But I think I'm not gone so deep in the SQL use. I just make some selects or add some data in database, just that. And for you, João?
Um, of course, I already tried. Like in 1 year of work, you can like see some problems that you need to use SQL, mainly on data jobs. So I use a few times to do some joins and do some security and create some it's called role access view for some users. So some users can view some roles, some users not. So I create some rules on SQL and create simple joins to create views. That's my use case. It's not so complex, and that's it. But I'm thinking about move my career for data engineer to software engineer after I listen to a podcast, and maybe I need to study more SQL because I probably will need the much more.
And you, Leandro? The number seven.
Yes, it's not very usual in my days, in my routine to use SQL. But now I am using no relational database. So the things it's a little bit different from relational database. But in general, I always trying to use SQL to, for example, to make a report. Okay, so yeah, in general, in my routine, SQL is very normal. Like that, I need to use Java. Okay.
Yeah. We use microservice because we talked in another meet, and when you use that, sometimes you need to rebuild some parts of the data in the microservice, and this make our life easier, because you, you don't need so many consults in relationships with another ones, so you can make this in the same place. It's most easier, and this answered the number weights too, but because I already start to answer that. But could you explain another example, not mentioned before, to use the scan? And I think this is my answer now. You can open your mind and put this to work for connection things in microservices. For me is the more simple to figure out. So you can use the SQL to get some information for some other service and put in yours. So you make a select and create some new database here, and use that for consult some other things in this service how you stay, And you, Leandro, how you think?
I don't know really, because SQL is so important to change or to manipulate the data that I don't know how you can use this data without SQL. Really, I don't know. But as I said, I don't know in front end, because front end basically you just have to you just need to have important thing about the CSS, HTML, or another framework that you can use in front end. But about the SQL, really, I don't know. Uh, Another thing that I can mention is about the no SQL is a little bit different, okay? But for example, MongoDB, you can use the syntax is very similar that SQL in relational database. But for example, when you are using Elasticsearch, for example, it's completely different. Okay, the way that you can get data, it's like a REST API. So you don't need to use SQL, DynamoDB as well. Okay, it's completely different. So SQL, it's very normal when you are using a relational database. So in another moment or another way, you can use another thing to get your data. Okay.
Leandro start. So I don't know, João, could you continue before?
Yeah, it's question number 8, right?
Yeah, about another use for SQL, not mentioned before.
I think my use, I'm basic user to opinion this question, but yeah, SQL is a language for a relational database. You can't use for, I think, raw data and some other stuffs. So I think is a language that has a niche for its use. It's very niche, so it's for relational database, and that's it, I think. But I can be wrong. I want to hear other opinions.
So Heitor, light us with your knowledge about.
No, my knowledge is very limited about that. But once I saw in a company that I worked, a guy developed a procedures to calculate the tax between a product in different states of Brazil. And we have 5 sheets of code in procedure. It's very, very extensive. It's much complicated to understand it, but was amazing because he developed that maybe 15 or 20 years ago. And they don't have any another tool to develop that. And it's amazing when we start to read the code and how to get some different data of different tables, enjoy that to multiplicate the price between the tax. Well, when you talk about it, it's a simple task. Calculate how the tax of a product, but do that with procedures in SQL was amazing. And I try to think about how to maintain that, make some, I don't know how to say that in English, but make a manutenção in this code. It's something very, very complicated and very difficult.
And I was listening, Heitor, and I remember right now another way to use SQL, and I had this experience in the past. There are many companies that can store your business logic in SQL, okay? All the things, all the business are in SQL. It's very common, okay? Now, I think that the architecture that the market is using is completely different. Now we understand that we can use the program language to store the business, and the database is just local that we can save the data, okay? But there are many companies using SQL to store the business logic, okay?
Yeah, and SQL can also use it to make not good things, like to inject attacks, something as that in some companies, you know, some hackers use SQL to access and drop some data, or change something just to break the company, you know. Recently, the Americanas lost the list from the marketing things from two weeks, if I remember well, and lost all the data. So every payment, every solicitation of product are lost. And what can they work with that, you know? They just start to be crazy with these hackers, and pay a lot of money to get the data again, and doesn't get, and lost a lot of clients because that. And I remember well, because my company are buy a lot of things in this moment, and lost everything, and it's difficult to prove the things they don't have data to prove, you know. It's so crazy that it's so common. You think, oh, I pay for that, you can just look in your data, but if I don't get it anymore, how can I do that? And so it can be used to the better way too, and the good one too. Yeah, if you need to be you need to use your intelligence to get a good database too, and very security, and you need to study a lot of SQL to do that. Not just SQL, but it's important part of that. So just for compliment. I don't know, we have some minutes. I think we can go for another one. So do you know some tool to abstract the SQL code? Which are they? Please, Heitor.
I don't think so. To abstract SQL code, I can remember not in relation with that. Well, I don't think it's the same, but for example, when you develop a CRUD, for example, in JavaScript, I don't think you abstract the CX. You just make And JavaScript understand how to say to database, make some consults or add some. I think that, I don't know, it's the same thing, abstract and make another language program communicate with database. But if the same, I already try to do a lot of things in JavaScript, like CRUD in JavaScript, in Ruby on Rails, and it was very easy. They have a lot of work tools, then automating this kind of work. You just put a command, run a script, and everything's done. It's very, very easy. And for usual.
Abstract SQL codes. I really don't know. Abstract, you mean you can a front end to and do a code in back end. That's it. Like abstract for the final user. User can click buttons and generate a code, a SQL code.
No, I think abstract in the sense of you don't need to use SQL anymore, you know, you have some tool to write the SQL code for you. So you use some decorative things and they write this for you.
Yeah, no. For SQL, no. But for managing database, relational database, I know just Power Query that do this thing for you. There is a tool on Excel that do this, like abstract the M code, the M language, and do some of the things that SQL do. So I just know Power Query, but for SQL language, I really don't know.
You are muted, Julia.
You are muted.
Yeah, I talking very deep here. Okay, so I think next is something like that, because they support many database like Postgres or MySQL to build some callbacks, you know, promise interface, and you don't need to use SQL profoundly. You make these carries, use decorative things, and I use that. And guys, I don't know how you are with the time. If you like, we can go to the next question, but I put here in the chat the survey just for you evaluate me and make some suggestion about the topics too. This will be great. And I'm for you. So if someone of you get the other question, we continue, sir.
I'm sorry, guys. I have a meeting at 9, so
Yes.
I have to go, unfortunately.
Guys, unfortunately, I need to leave too. But thank you very much for this class, this talk.
Yeah.
I was very, very, very grateful to be here.
Yes, I will make someone with this discussion about SQL or not SQL and the difference about that, and start think about that. Now, if you don't have interest in to know more about this universe, so we can gather on.
Thank you very much, guys.
So have a nice day.
Guys.
See you last week.
Bye-bye.
Till last week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.